Donna.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Central Coast Local Planning Panel. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodian of the lands on which we meet today and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. This meeting is, as you know, being recorded and webcast, and I encourage everyone to bear that in mind in thinking about what to say. There's to be no other recording or filming of the meeting in the absence of the prior permission of the panel. The panel's decision from the meeting and the audio recording should be available on Council's website ordinarily well within 7 days from this meeting. Please turn off your electronic devices or put them on silent and make sure you're free from interruptions. Okay, the panel members for this afternoon's meeting are me, Donna Reigate, as the chair, Grant Christmas and Linda McClure as the expert/professional panel members, and Stephen Glenn, who is our nominated community panel member. So welcome, everybody. We have no apologies. Today, we're considering the following development applications: DA 97/2020, which is use of existing premises for the purpose of an animal building and training facility / dog breeding at 604 Arimba Creek Road, Palm Grove. DA 55/491/2018, which is designated / integrated poultry farm development at 1411 Peats Ridge Road, Peats Ridge. And DA 57/145/2019 for a residential flat building located at 93 to 95 Henry Parry Drive, Gosford. The panel has been provided with assessment reports prepared by council staff as well as public submissions on the applicants. Site visits have been undertaken and council staff have also briefed the panel and provided any additional information on the key issues that the applications raise. Today we've got a number of people registered to address our public meeting. On the Palm Grove matter, we have Zoe Wall, Frank Nijits, you'll have to tell me how to say that when it comes to your turn, Frank, Tony Voller, John Dawson, Michael Tatum, Gay Morals, all against. No speakers on the Peats Ridge matter. And for Gosford, we are expecting to have James Grant on behalf of the applicant and Tony Tuxworth also on behalf of the applicant and available for questions. Righto, so welcome. We're going to hear from the speakers on the first agenda item and then move through to the third agenda item since there are none on the second. Our usual practice is to allow individual members of the public 3 minutes to speak on a matter. That time can be extended if it's desperate. We do encourage speakers not to simply repeat what previous speakers have said. We've read the submissions, we've read the reports, and we're keen to hear from you. Once all members of the public have spoken on a DA, if there is a representative of the applicant, they're given a maximum speaking time of 15 minutes to respond to all of the other people if they want to. No need to repeat points made in the submissions. I also ask everybody to hear each speaker in silence and to observe courtesy and respect throughout the meeting. No personal criticism, please, at any speaker or council staff. It's contrary to the panel's code of conduct and it's unacceptable and doesn't add anything to the process. And panel members might ask questions of the speakers to clarify our understanding of what they've said. And after hearing from the speakers, we might also ask questions of council officers to clarify matters raised. In terms of how the things will work from then, after we hear from all the speakers, we're going to adjourn our meeting to confer. If we were meeting in real life, we might then reconvene in the meeting place to hand down our decisions. But given we're doing this electronically, what we'll do instead is seek to have the panel's decision up on council's website as soon as possible after the meeting. At the conclusion of our adjournment, we might decide to either make a decision on the matter or if we need more information, we might defer either for a further public meeting or to be dealt with electronically. Okay, moving into the agenda, declarations of interest. Panel members, of course, are aware of the requirements in the Code of Conduct for panel members about conflict of interest declarations. We've received declarations from all of you. Yes? Yes, nodding.
Yes.
Does anybody have any additional declarations that haven't previously been made?
No.
Okay, thank you. The minutes, agenda item 2.1, the minutes of the September 2020 meeting of the local planning panel have been endorsed by the chair of that meeting, and they're submitted for noting. I move that they be noted. Yes?
I second that.
Thank you very much. In favour? Against? Done. Righto, moving on to the development applications. As I said, we'll start with the application in relation to the premises for animal boarding, training, dog breeding at Palm Grove. And I would like to call on Zoe Wall, please, to address the panel. You there, Zoe?
I believe I am now.
Yes, you are. Where you go?
Good. And can you see me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to make the following points. 1, having lived in the Valley for 20 years, I can attest that this proposal goes against the grain of the Valley's deep ethos of care for its natural environment. In essence, our ethos is underpinned by general care of our flora, which in turn supports Valley fauna. Fauna need their natural habitat, natural sounds, atmosphere, smells, and so on. The essence of and effects from this puppy farm are therefore intrinsically obscene to the greater Valley community. 2, I highlight that 45 objections were submitted, and without the aid of social media, purely through traditional means and resulting from the strength of reasoned, logical reaction. This is a high number from a small community, nonetheless driven to act. Being appalled by this proposal and the fact that the applicants did not desist when council advised them to in October last year. This proved contempt for council and thus indicates probable contempt for any future regulation. 3, not one supportive submission was lodged with council, showing that community considerations are overwhelmingly negative towards this business type. 4, the applicant site acreage is simply insufficient for this noisy use. Furthermore, the site's location where the valley narrows exacerbates noise reaching neighbours. The proposed business needs far greater acreage in order for the dog's noise to be ameliorated by distance before reaching and disturbing neighbours. 5, dogs live 24/7. They cannot be made subject to opening and closing times like business trading hours. To purport that the animal's noises can be managed is a fallacy. To purport that their noise can be managed only raises the question of the efficacy of the means by which the animals could be quietened. They should be living normally if their welfare is uppermost, being considered appropriately, not living life constrained by some noise management system like a music festival. 6, we are an eclectic neighbourhood, yet our environment's conservation binds us together. An example is our 11-year-old annual valley fox baiting, including numerous properties, of which I'm an organiser. It's an exemplary programme helping to give native fauna a fair go. The noise and negative ramifications resulting from factory-bred designer dogs run counter to all our conservation efforts and principles. This proposal runs counter to what we expect of Valley residents' shared values. Thank you for your consideration of my points. Please refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Unless panel members have particular questions they wish to ask at this point, I might move on to our next speaker. Everyone happy with that? Yep. Okay, it's your turn now, Frank.
So. Okay, can you see and hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. My name is Frank Neitz, and pronounced Neitz is a Dutch name. IJ is a Dutch letter combination. Okay, I want to address the panel particularly on 2 points. One is the local environment. National Parks and Wildlife calls it a prized conservation area. Among a number of species, including trees and river frogs, platypus, there are 80 different birds recorded in the area, of which 5 are threatened species. In a study published in the Royal Society Publishing, Four-Legged Friends and Foe Dog Walking Displaces Natives Birds from Natural Areas, they state, part of the problem is that wild animals perceive dogs as a threat. They change their behavior and avoid them. One study near Sydney found that dog walking in parklands and national parks reduced the abundance by 41%, and the species richness of birds by 35%, even when the dogs were restrained on a leash. Although it can be argued that the significance is limited in the Palm Grove area, each time is another 5 kilometers that is affected, we possibly could lose the special birds and special fauna permanently, and it's too great to gamble. Now on to the next part is the dogs themselves. The proposed breed is in the French Bulldog, which is a brachycephalic breed, means short-faced or short-headed. The breeding of these dogs is associated with health and welfare problems, including acute and chronic respiratory distress, with potential need for airway stabilization and surgical intervention to manage the brachycephalic obstruction airway syndrome, or BOAS. As the skull is shortened, the soft tissue like the tongue, the nostrils, the eye sockets is not reduced the same way as the skull. So therefore, it causes blockages in the airways, in the nostrils, so they can't breathe properly, and in the eye sockets, pushing the eyes out, causing a number of issues such as dirt getting into the eyes continuously, and possibly even popping out of the sockets. It's advised by veterinaries that these kind of dogs are kept indoors when it's 30 degrees or warmer. Now, in the Palm Grove areas, that is almost every day during summer, and 40 degrees is not an exception in that area. So adding to enormous suffering of these little doggies. Once these dogs have medical issues, the vet bills become very high, and the chances that a lot of dog owners will not look after the dogs properly or discard them altogether. I strongly support the council decision not to approve this application on grounds that the community along Arimba Creek Road as a whole is very active at restoring, preserving and cherishing the local native flora and fauna, and the introduction of a genetically modified breed of dogs aiming at the uncharitable high end of the market is not what the residents are looking for in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nates. We'll move on now to Tony Voller.
My name is Tony Voller. I live next door to the DA property in Palm Grove, and along with more than 40 other locals, strongly support the recommendation to oppose this DA. This development is detrimental to the amenity of the Palm Grove locality and is not in the public interest. The attraction of living here in Palm Grove is lost when constantly interrupted by the noise of numerous yapping dogs. The many dogs associated with this DA produce a noise that is highly pitched and travels freely in one of the narrowest parts of the Arimba Creek Valley. The daily release of the dogs to the outside area results in an explosive noise of continuous irritating, annoying bark that demands attention. It interrupts the comfort and amenity of the area. No wonder that so many of us have complained about it affecting their quality of life on a regular basis. Why should we have to seek refuge from this noise? And in particular, the closest resident, Pam Dawson, only 240 metres away from from the dogs, having to retreat from her front veranda to go inside to seek refuge away from the noise. The suitability of the site. The site is not suitable. The problem of the noise is made worse by the site not being suitable for this DA due to its proximity to many neighbours on small farms. There are 3 within 300 metres or less of the dogs, and 7 within 500 metres or less of the dogs. And another site constraint is the topography, where the valley at this point is very narrow and shaped like an amphitheatre, which radiates from the site of the dog breeding facilities. It would be ideal for an outdoor concept where neighbours did not have to leave their homes to enjoy such a concept. In terms of another issue, it's non-compliance. This particular development has a history of non-compliance where the proponent defied the council's request to desist but continued with their dog breeding business. It has operated continuously since the new owners purchased the property, despite the efforts of council responding to the complaints of people like me and other neighbours. And gobsmackingly, when they constructed without approval a large outdoor dog facility and exercise yards, even during this current assessment for the DA. Past history is the best guide to future action. It is very important to make sure that such non-compliance is not rewarded with retrospective consent. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And gee, perfectly timed. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is John Dawson.
Hello, are we ready?
Yep.
Yeah, my name is John Dawson. I live about 3/4 of a kilometre from the puppy farm, but share a common boundary with it. I am mainly here on behalf of my sister, Pamela Dawson, who lives about 100 metres or so from the puppy farm. My sister is intellectually handicapped. I am a carer and have power of attorney and enduring guardianship over it. When the puppy farm first opened, the noise was constantly loud and prolonged, so much so that my sister was forced to go inside the house and shut the doors. This reduces her quality of life by not being able to enjoy the peaceful surrounds. She actually thought the dogs were being mistreated because of their continual barking. This does not help her mental state. My sister has lived there for 74 years, and at some stage she will have to go into permanent care. As you are aware, the costs of going into these facilities are very high, meaning that my sister will have to sell or rent the property at this time. I am concerned that the continual noise will reduce the value of the 2-hectare property to such an extent that she will have insufficient funds to meet the requirements of a permanent care, causing more stress and heartache for her. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Tatum. You there, Michael? If you are there, we can't hear you.
I am here.
Ah.
Well, I am here. Great, thank you. Yes, good afternoon to you. Oh, it started. Okay, 604 was described in the sales literature as a true part of paradise, ready and waiting to be discovered by those seeking the ultimate acreage lifestyle, set in peaceful Palm Grove. Every aspect of pure country living is here to be indulged in. The tourist attraction, the Forest of Tranquility, is located about 4 minutes drive back down the road, and its name describes the area. There's no through traffic, and Dorimba Creek Road is so generally fairly quiet, very quiet. Now, following the statement of environmental effect claims, that Mr. Lewis was advised a DA wasn't required, I called the selling agent, Mr. Brian Milson of Property Central, who told me that Mr. Lewis had been looking at 2 properties, that the other was considered to be a bit closer to a railway line, and so he settled on number 604 as he thought it would be quieter. Now, this business apparently designs, manufactures, and wholesales French bulldogs to an existing client base. I take those words, existing client base, from the SEE. It's a puppy dog factory, and it can be very noisy. The barking, howling, whimpering, and yapping of small dogs can be very, very high-pitched and irritating, and sometimes even sounds like babies crying. It's a highly stressful noise to listen to, potentially 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. Mr. Lewis has continued with intent to expand the infrastructure in defiance of the council notices. And I don't believe he can now claim that he has invested so much in the business it would be unreasonable to reject the DA, which he placed a value of only $10,000 on. And these dogs aren't just kept in the areas claimed. One objector makes reference to having seen the dogs stacked in the garage beside the smaller residence. And I can confirm that a lot of barking and yapping comes from that area during the day as well. I also believe that Mr. Lewis has his MDBA member number registered at a completely different address and doesn't actually live at 604 Orimba Creek Road, and so isn't able to properly supervise the operation. Now, we've maintained a diary since the 23rd of July, 2019, documenting the noise and can support our claims. Now, if 604 is not approved to operate, how come they continue to disrupt neighbours' lives and at the additional cost of having council workers or council officers having to go there, they're enforcing compliance? Please refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Now, Gay Morals.
My name is Gay. I live at 10 Moores Point Lane, opposite 604 Orimba Creek Road. I've lived there for more than 20 years. I moved there for the quiet rural environment, and in particular, the bird and wildlife. It's a unique area. There's protected rainforest running through our property along a permanent platypus creek. The bird life is remarkable. People choose to live here because it's quiet, beautiful, and it's part of a conservation-focused, environmentally conscious, and ethical community who care. I'm out of doors every day of the year, but for 15 months have been subjected to extended, unrelenting, distressing, and destructive noise. Even with windows closed, I can hear dogs yapping and barking at the back of my house. Noise adversely affects health. In particular, there is considerable research to demonstrate the negative link between annoyance factors created by unwanted noise and mental well-being. The poor council staff who fielded my calls during this period can attest to my high levels of stress and distress. The absence of unwanted sound is not necessarily quietness. Some sounds are desirable, for example, the noise of the wind in the trees or birdsong. But unwanted noise stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and the endocrine system. It creates stress in the body, put simply, the fight and flight response. Activation of the sympathetic nervous system also suppresses the immune system. The issue is not simply one of the volume of noise, but more importantly, frequency and duration of extended periods of inconsistent, erratic sounds, which are perceived by the human ear more acutely than others. It has been utterly intolerable. Other speakers have commented on animal welfare issues. However, the state of Victoria is in the process of banning intensive dog breeding operations, and as a result, farms are moving across the border into New South Wales. The Murray River Council, only 3 weeks ago, changed its bylaws overnight to stop this happening. WA is also in the process of altering its legislation. It is 2020. We need to consider these ethical issues seriously now. Finally, in its Policy for Compliance and Health 2017, the Central Coast Council states that its responsibilities are, amongst others, to improve the amenity of the community, to act for the collective good, the welfare of the community, and in the public interest, and aim to meet the expectations of the community. Considering the high level of community objection, how does this development possibly sit comfortably with these objectives? I believe the community has made its case respectfully, strongly, and fairly, and request that the planning panel reject the proposal and allow residents to return to some semblance of normality and peace again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, do members of the panel have any questions that they would like to ask our speakers in relation to this application?
No.
No. Okay, any questions of council officers in response to anything that's been raised?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Well, look, I'd like to thank all of those speakers very much for taking the time to address us this afternoon. We really do appreciate it. As I said earlier, we have no speakers registered in relation to the Peats Ridge Poultry Farm matter, so I'll move on to the Gosford development and ask members of the panel whether, well, I suppose I should say, do Mr. Grant or Mr. Tuxworth wish to say anything at the outset, or shall we just move into questions from members of the panel for them on behalf of the applicant?
Is that a question of the applicant?
Yes,
Madam Chair, right.
We don't have anybody else registered to speak. We have James Grant and Tony Tuxworth if required.
Right.
So, James? If you're speaking, James, we can't hear you. Maybe you're not.
He's got his microphone turned off.
Yeah. Got a very fuzzy picture and no words. Okay, Tony Tuxworth doesn't appear to be here at all, as far as I can see. Oh yes, he's waiting in the waiting room. Okay. Tony, are you there? Can you unmute yourself and let us know that whether you're there? Tony Tuxworth? Tony? Can see you, Tony. Could you please speak?
Yes, this is always a problem for me.
Yeah. We've asked James Grant to say a few words, but he appears not to actually be there, even though he's on the.
I look like it. Am I unmuted now? No.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, no,
Tony.
he's here. He's here.
Well, look, in the absence of him wanting to say anything or unmuting himself to do that, could you please tell us anything that you need to tell us so that we can move on to get questions from the members of the panel for you?
I have unmuted myself.
Is that you,
Can you
Tony?
hear me? No.
Yeah, that's Tony.
Yes, I'm just
That's
talking
him.
about James Grant. We can't hear him at all. But anyway, okay, Tony, what do you need to tell us?
Nothing. Well, can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, look, I've read the report. We're happy with the recommendation and the conditions. We're happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tony. Okay, members of the panel, do you have any questions for Tony? And I suggest don't bother asking James Grant because he doesn't respond.
I do.
He might want to, but he's not making much progress yet. Okay, go.
He's here. Can you hear him?
No.
No, we can't hear him at all. Okay, Linda.
Tony, hi.
Hi, Linda.
Hello. I'm just concerned about the provision of communal open space on the application. Under the ADG, it's supposed to be 25% of the site area with sunshine for a minimum of 2 hours a day to 50% of the area. Now, there's only a community room in a basement type facility provided. The ADG suggests that if it can't be provided on ground level, the rooftop's a suitable location. I'm just wondering if there's anything that prevents the communal open space being placed on the roof here.
Donna, Linda's asking a question.
Yes, I know. And are you going to? Can you answer it?
Donna, there's clearly a problem because I can hear James, and Linda has just asked the question.
Yes, and I can hear Linda and I can hear you. So can you answer the question?
Well,
can you hear me, Tony?
I can hear Linda.
That was Donna. Can you hear Donna?
I can hear Donna.
Good. Can you answer Linda's question, please? Tony, could you please answer Linda's question?
I'm just listening to the last part of it.
I don't think it's that funny.
No, neither do I. Okay, everybody stop. Linda, could you please restate the question again for Tony and Mr. Grant if he is there somewhere in the ether, and then perhaps Tony could answer it.
Right, can you hear me, Tony?
I can, Linda.
I'm asking you about communal open space on the site, which the ADG requires to be 25% of site area with sunshine for a minimum of 2 hours a day to 50% of the area, correct? Now, there's no communal open space provided on ground level, only a community room that's in the basement of the building. The ADG suggests that if you can't provide ground level open space, the rooftop is a suitable location, particularly for shop top housing, higher density, that sort of thing. Is there anything that prevents the communal open space being placed on the roof here?
Can I answer that, James? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Tony.
Oh, okay. We can hear you and hear you now, Mr. Grant. That's lovely. Excellent. Go.
No, I've got the question. I've got the question. So I'm happy, Linda, with the question.
Excellent. How about answering it?
Yeah, no, I've got the question. Oh.
So are you answering it, Tony?
All I'm getting is the question again.
Yeah, and I'm asking you to answer the question. Or James, if James is there as the architect.
Donna, there's a problem.
Sounds like there might be, Tony, with your
yeah, it's your end, Tony.
No, I'm fine. I can hear what's going on, but there's this massive delay.
Yeah. Okay.
I can answer that question now. Can people hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, answer.
I've discussed this with the owner, and there is an opportunity to provide James, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Are you happy for me to answer?
If you are technically able to.
Oh gosh.
How about the architect answer?
Yeah, come on,
I'm
James.
only saying, is there anything that I'm not interested in knowing what the applicant think. I'm asking the
Right, so
architect.
if you can hear me, can you just ask that question again, and I'll have a go at it.
Can you tell me if there's anything that prevents communal open space being provided on the rooftop?
Linda, no, there's nothing. It could be provided where the AC area was.
Well, no, I'm
air
just
conditioners.
asking, well, why wasn't it considered in the first place?
Well, what we thought that it would be detrimental to the units either side of it if we put communal open space next to what are possibly the best units in the building. So we didn't feel we wanted to devalue those units by putting the communal open space up there.
Right. So you're putting 2 units ahead of the rest of the building, is that right?
I suppose we are.
Okay.
Okay, Linda, other questions?
Yes, I was just wanting to ask about deep soil on the site, because it's not adequate, because it's not of suitable dimensions and isn't really suitable for planting medium-sized trees, which is its intention. But I note there's an exceedance of parking on the site, 41 spaces instead of 35. I'm wondering if it's technically possible to create more deep soil by removing 3 spaces that are above each other, like, do you know what I mean, on each basement level, and therefore create on the western side, and therefore creating more deep soil. Is that possible?
I have not looked into it.
James, would you mind facing your computer, because we might be able to hear you a bit better?
No, so I was just looking at the plans, trying to think about it. I mean, how much are you looking for? And what we're talking about is there are some units on the ground, on ground level on that side, which have terraces, which go over the parking, basically. So whatever we would be losing terrace space for units by making some holes, I guess. It is possible, but it would, I guess, how many would we lose? Are you saying 3? We could lose 3 spaces and probably get some deep soil between units G1 and G2, if that's what you're talking about?
Yes, or
if we were to say on the basement plan 1, there's a car park labelled.
No, I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of on the western side, between, say, units. Hang on, got to get the right plan. Oh yeah, G1 and G2. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
G2. That's the western side, I think.
Because they have very big balconies.
They do.
Sorry, I'm just looking at how you can increase the deep soil, because most of the deep soil you can't plant anything in it, and it's going to have a sandstone.
Well, there is an opportunity to increase some deep soil in that area if we were to lose parking. I guess, yeah.
I'm only suggesting that because there's an excess of parking. That's all.
Yeah. Well, again, you know, for the people who want this building, that's seen as a positive for the people who living in the building, because they get more car spaces.
Yes, but we also have to think about the environment and the deep soil requirements, which are not met. Anyhow,
I thought they are.
I guess also.
Commented?
Yeah.
Okay, Linda, anything else?
The only other question I had was about the frontage with the 2-story wall that's located in the front of the building. I'm just wanting to know how much of this frontage can actually be landscaped, given that the driveway exit has to have adequate sight distance. So you're showing it landscape, but I'm just wondering if that's actually physically possible.
If you look at DA 18, and I'll also do a quick bit of history. I mean, originally we put in this application, our intent was to keep the hill that's there and the hill that goes all the way down to pretty much the curb of the existing road. Council want us to put in the footpath, so some of that hill went for that. And then the driveways create site views, so some of the hill's going for that. So what we're left is the square meterage in plan is still green, but it's at a different height. And the different height means we see more of the wall. And if you look at those views, you can see all that green area in front of that wall.
Yeah.
And if not the area next to the footpath, but definitely the one on the raised planter behind it can be planted up and it's deep soil.
So that's on your actual land too. Is that right?
Yeah, where you see the fence between, yeah, that's the boundary. So we've got green either side of it.
Yeah.
And we can put planting on our side.
So you think you can grow something that'll sort of cover the wall? Because it's a sort of very high wall, that's all. It's a bit ugly.
It's a largish area of greenery, so that's the intention anyway. Okay. I mean, we can also bank the soil up a bit too against that wall.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had to ask about, Donna.
Thank you, Linda. Grant, what about you?
Yes, just one question. I'm just curious as to whether you had some discussions with the owner at number 97. Just from going out there on Tuesday, seemed to be that site might that number 97 might be it's a bit smaller than the other sites in the area, and that the opportunity may have presented itself for the 3 sites to be amalgamated. Were there any discussions?
Yes, I can answer that.
So those discussions were had.
Yeah, I actually approached the next door neighbours a couple of years ago about acquiring the site, and they were just totally unrealistic in their expectation. And they said they actually had some plans to do development by themselves on that site. So, you know, and what they're after was almost three times what I paid for my 2 properties. So,
I don't know who that is that's talking, but it's not somebody that's registered.
Oh, sorry.
Steve Joggo.
So Steve Joggo is sitting with me. He's the owner and highly interested.
Okay.
But I mean, the question was if someone had done that work and Steve did that work.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Grant?
No. I was just curious as to whether there had been discussions. I mean, as I understand it, there's no absolute requirement in the council's planning controls, and there's no requirement in terms of minimum site areas or frontages and the like. But it just seemed to me, as I said, from being out there the other day, that there was an opportunity, and obviously there has been discussions. But I acknowledge that economics may and does have an impact. So I'm satisfied with that answer.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, Stephen, your turn.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's probably it for the public meeting part of the meeting, unless anybody's got anything desperate to add right now. No? Okay. So, as I said, we're going to now close the public part of the meeting and adjourn to confer. I would like to thank everybody who attended and took part, including my fellow panel members, members of the community, representatives of and the applicant in relation to the last application, and council staff. I appreciate everybody bearing with us in this interesting technological time, but I think we got there. So thank you all very much. Members of the panel and Sonia for the minutes, if we could reconvene on the deliberation link in 5 minutes, that would be fantastic. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.